الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أفضل الموجودات العبد المؤيد الرسول المصدد المصطفى الأمجد والمحمود الأحمد سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا صاحب الوقار والسكينة المدفون بأرض المدينة أبي القاسم محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين آمين يا رب العالمين. أما بعد، قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه الكريم وهو أصدق القائلين وقوله الحق: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا أقسم بيوم القيامة ولا أقسم بنفس اللوامة أيحسب الإنسان ألن نجمع عظامه بلى قادرين على أن نسوي بنانه صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات اللهم صل على وتقبل الله أعمالكم. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your amal and your fasts, your prayers, and inshallah in the nights of Qadr, Layal al-Qadr, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you a night tawfiq for His ibadah, for istighfar, for dua, for ourselves, for mu'mineen, mu'minat, shuhada, marhumin, and inshallah that we're able to make the most important dua out of all duas tonight, which is the dua of the zuhur of Imam Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman. Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إذا حضر أحدكم الموت إن ترك خيرا الوصية للوالدين والأقربين بالمعروف حقا على المتقين. In Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah says, if any one of you dies, then it is incumbent, obligatory upon him to write a wasiyah, to leave behind a wasiyah. Wasiyah is so important. In other words, writing a will. What is a wasiyah? It is to write a will. The dying person should have a will, should have a wasiyah in regards to what happens with his property, his assets, his wealth after he dies. It's so important that, as if the hadith says, one who writes the wasiyah and dies, Allah gives him the thawab of a shaheed. Hadith from Rasulullah. And one who does not write a wasiyah, though he should have written a wasiyah, especially if he left behind in taraka khayra, if he leaves behind mal, if he leaves behind awlad, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala considers him having died the death of jahiliyyah, ignorance. What is this wasiyah? إِذَا حَضَرَ أَحَدَكُمُ الْمَوْتِ, when death comes to you, when you're dying and you leave behind something, write a wasiyah. For who? لِلْوَالِدَيْنِ, for your parents. وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ, those who are close to you, from your family members, immediate family, second level of family ties, second cousins, uncles and aunts. بِالْمَعْرُوف, a good wasiyah. حَقًّا عَلَى الْمُتَّقِينَ, this is something which is necessary for the pious, for the righteous. Another hadith says you should never sleep unless you have a wasiyah under your pillow. Yeah? Do not go to bed, do not sleep unless you have a wasiyah. كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمْ إِذَا حَضَرَ أَحَدَكُمُ الْمَوْتِ. The same kutiba has been used for kutiba alaykum as-siyam, kutiba alaykum al-qital. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the fast is wajib on you, He uses the same word kutiba that He uses for wasiyah. Now what is this wasiyah? If I die, or if I am dying, and I have some wealth, I have some property, I make sure I distribute it evenly to where it should go. There's no point me having wealth and property and dying and not calculating or organizing my affairs. So one of the benefits of writing a wasiyah, number one, is because the Quran says do it. Number two, it shows that the person who writes the wasiyah cares about the huquq of Allah and the ibad. In other words, I have family members. I have to care for their huquq, their rights, children, parents, wife, husband, brothers and sisters. So the person who writes the wasiyah cares for the huquq that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed on him. Yes? He calculates his wealth. He decides what he has to do. Number four, he leaves behind a legacy. This is something that so and so did. His name is alive. Yes? All of Ahlul Bayt made a wasiyah. The wasiyah of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib is mashhoor in Nahjul Balagha. The wasiyah of the Prophet Yaqub is in the Holy Quran. It's in the Quran. The Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam makes a wasiyah. Rasulullah made a wasiyah. In Karbala, when Habib ibn Madahir was dying, he came to his friend Muslim ibn Awsaj. Muslim is one of the first shuhada of Karbala. And Habib says to Muslim, I won't live after you. You're a shaheed, I will be a shaheed as well. If I knew that I would live and go back to Kufa, I would ask you, what is your wasiyah of my friend Muslim? But even now, if you have a wasiyah, make me your wasiyah. You know what Habib says? Muslim says to Habib. Muslim says to Habib, oh Habib, I only have one wasiyah. What is your wasiyah? Hussein ibn Ali. As long as you live, make sure the enemy doesn't get close to Hussein. Every dying person makes a will, a testament. He writes something. Now, wasiyah is not something which is limited to the mal, even though it's important. A person was dying in the time of Rasulullah. He says, when I die, I have a storage of dates. Distribute them. I have a lot of dates that I've collected. When I die, take all of my dates and distribute them in the city. He had a store of it. He died. They took all of his dates and they distributed it in the city except one left on the floor. You know what Rasulullah did? He came and he picked that one date that was on the floor that they had left behind, that had dropped, and they had forgotten about it. Rasulullah takes that date and he says to the companions, to the Sahaba, he says, look at this one date. He gave tons of dates. But if he had given this one date in his lifetime, that would have been better for him than all of these dates that he gave after his death. Yeah? To give in your life is much better, afdal, than to give after your death. Why? Because if you give after your death, yes, you'll fill a few stomachs. You'll give to some poor. But you will not train that sakhawa and that karama and that generosity that Allah wants you to train by giving while you're alive with your own hands. You know, they say, why do you have two hands? One of the poets says, he says, why do you have two hands? He says, Allah has given you two hands. One hand is for what? He says, one hand is for yourself, and the other is for others. One hand, you feed yourself. With the other, you feed somebody else. And if the life of Ali ibn Abi Talib gives us a lesson, shows us anything, is that the meaning of hayat, the meaning of life is to give. Amirul Mu'mineen was from amongst those that he would give even to his enemies in the battle of Siffin. When Muawiyah took the Furat, he stops the water on Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam and the Shia to Ali. He says, no water will go towards Ali ibn Abi Talib wa ashabih. Yes? Malik al-Ashtar, Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, they attack. They take the water. They say, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, should we stop the water? He says, no, you will not stop the water. You do not stop the water. Give, let them have water, even if they are my enemies, let them have. The person on a night like this who struck Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib on his head in the masjid of Kufa, in the mihrab of Kufa, Abdul Rahman ibn Muljam al-La'in, la'natullahi alayh. When they arrested him, the Imam says, you've arrested him? He says, yes. Amir al-Mu'mineen, he's your killer. He says, I know, but he looks thirsty. Give him something to drink. هَكَذَا كَانَ أَمِيرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. This is how Ali ibn Abi Talib was. He is my enemy, but he's thirsty. Give him something to drink. They had tied his hands. They said, open his hands. Let him sit down. This was Amir al-Mu'mineen, salamullahi alayhi. Yet wasiyah is not limited to mal. The Prophet Yaqub, when he is dying, he gathers his children. When death comes upon Yaqub alayhi salam, he gathers his son and he says to them, what does he say? In the Quran, مَا تَعْبُدُونَ مِن بَعْدِي. O my sons, who will you worship after me? The wasiyah of Yaqub is not money. This is your money, this is your house, this is your flat, this is your property, this is your wealth, this is your gold, this is your... No. Who will you worship after me? You know what he gives them in his wasiyah? Deen, aqa'id. Wasiyah is aqa'idiyah as well. Has aqa'id in it. Religion. Who are you going to worship after me, my sons? What do they say? We will worship your God and the God of Ibrahim and Ismail and Ishaq. We will worship your God and the God of your forefathers, Ibrahim and Ismail and Ishaq. So it goes to show you that wasiyah is not limited to gold and silver coins. Even religion, aqa'id, and this is why the hadith says, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, raise your children upon three things. Hubbi, wa hubbu ahle bayti, wa tilawati al-Quran. Give your children three things. My love. Teach your children to love Rasulullah. Wa hubbu ahle bayti, and the love of Ahlul Bayt. The love of Ali ibn Abi Talib is instilled in the children while the children are in the laps of the mothers. Don't wait for the child to grow up. And they say, when they will grow up, then we'll teach them, Ya Ali, Ya Hassan, Ya Hussein. No, now. Even when they're young, you teach them, Ya Ali, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. They don't understand, no problem. They will understand once they reach that age when they can understand. Yeah? Teach them young. Raise your children on the love of Rasulullah, on the love of Ahlul Bayt, and upon the love of Quran, the recitation of the Holy Quran. That is the greatest treasure. It's wajib on the parents. It's the greatest treasure you can give your children. MashaAllah, there's a lot of children here. One of the greatest treasures you can give your children is the love of Ahlul Bayt. حب علي عبادة وأفضل العبادة. ذكر علي عبادة وأفضل العبادة والنذر إلى وجهه. To speak about Imam Ali is a worship. Speak about Imam Ali alayhi salam to your children. To mention him, to love him, even if you don't mention him, to love him in the heart is ibadah. And even if you cannot mention or love, for those who were lucky at that time, they were alive in the time of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, to glance at the face of Ali ibn Abi Talib is ibadah. They say sometimes the Sahaba, the companions, they used to look at Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. When Ali ibn Abi Talib used to walk in, they used to look at Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. And when they would ask him, why you talking to me but you're looking at Imam Ali? It is because Rasulullah says, Al-nadharu ila wajhi aliyin ibadah. To look at Imam Ali alayhi salam in his face with love is considered ibadah of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. It's considered a worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam makes that wasiyah. Now as tonight is a night where we mourn, where we will cry for Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, it's only fair to remember the wasiyah of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Nahjul Balagha. What does Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib say? He says to his sons Hassan and Hussein, Usikuma bi taqwallah. What is in the wasiyah of Ali? And by the way, the wasiyah, because Ali ibn Abi Talib, Rasulullah says, Ana wa Ali abawa hadhihi al-ummah. Me and Ali are the two fathers of the ummah. Ali is the father of the ummah. Rasulullah is the father of the ummah. So like when a father dies, he makes a wasiyah to the children. Ali ibn Abi Talib's wasiyah is to all of the children of Islam, the ummah of Islam. What is the first thing in his wasiyah? Usikuma bi taqwallah. Taqwa, piety. You can have everything. You can come to mosque every day, you can pray, you can fast. But if you do not have taqwa, then you and I are missing a big portion, a big chunk from the religion of Islam and Iman. Piety. Ahlul Bayt salamullah alayhim ajma'een, they want followers that when people see them, they would say, Ulaika Shi'atu Ja'far. This is the Shia of Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq. They say, don't be a Shia with your tongue that you say I'm a Shia. Be a Shia with your akhlaq that when they look at you, they say this is a Shia of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam once goes towards Wadi al-Salam in Najaf. And behind him is a group of people who are following him. He turns around and he says, why are you following? Who are you? He says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, we are your Shia. Imam Salamullah alayhi looks at him and says, if you're my Shia, why do I not see signs of you being a Shia? He said, what are the signs of a Shia? He says, the signs of sujood on their forehead. The sign of fear in their eyes from the day of judgment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Where is the sign of fear of Allah? Usikuma bitaqwa. Number one, Ali ibn Abi Talib in his wasiyah. Very quickly, let's go to the wasiyah of Ali ibn. Number one, taqwa Allah. Fear Allah. No, I'm a follower of Ali ibn Abi Talib. I can't do this. It's haram. Even if I'm alone, nobody's watching me, Allah is watching me. Imam al-Zaman is watching. قُلْ اعْمَلُوا فَسَيَّرَ اللَّهُ عَمَلَكُمْ وَالرَّسُولُهُ وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ. The Quran says, do what you gotta do. Do your deeds. Allah sees you. The Prophet sees you. وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ, and the mu'minun see you. Who are the mu'minun? They are Muhammadin wa Ali Muhammad. Yes, they see you. Nothing is hidden from Allah and His Rasul and Ahlul Bayt. Everything is in front of their eyes. We have a hadith that our amal are shown to Imam al-Asr. Our deeds are shown to Imam Sahib al-Zaman. And if the deeds are good, he makes dua. And if the deeds are bad, the Imam becomes upset. May our deeds never make Imam Sahib al-Zaman upset. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Number one, taqwa. Number two, the Imam says, and this is important, he says, do not chase after the dunya, even if the dunya chases after you. This is something very important. Imam Salamullah alayhi says, don't chase. Some people just want dunya, they chase after the dunya. Imam says, don't chase after dunya. Yes, we say, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنًا وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنًا وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Sahih is correct. But do not be blinded by the dunya. Then he says, if you lose something from this dunya, don't be upset. Don't be upset if you lose something from the dunya. You've lost nothing. And then he says, كُونَ لِلظَّالِمِ خَصْمَةً وَلِلْمَظْلُومِ عَوْنَةً. It's important. He says, be an enemy of the zalim and a friend of the mazloom. Be an enemy of the oppressor and be a friend of the oppressed. And subhanallah, today the world knows it. If anyone, and with all the wars that are going on, if anyone has supported the mazloom today, it is crystal clear, it is the Shia of Ali ibn Abi Talib. If anyone has stood by the mazloom, if anyone has protected the mazloom, if anyone has given blood for the sake of the mazloom, or the Shia of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Be proud of being a Shia. Take pride in your identity. The Shia are the only ones in the Muslim Ummah who have always stood up and will always stand up for the mazloom. You know, somebody asked one of the ulama, one of the scholars, why don't the rest of the Muslims stand up for the mazloomeen, for the oppressed? He gave a very good response, one of the ulama of Najaf. He says, how can you expect the Muslims to stand up for the mazloom when it was their fathers and forefathers who did not stand up for Ali ibn Abi Talib after Rasulullah? The people who stand up for the mazloom today are the ones who take their religion from Ali ibn Abi Talib after Rasulullah. The bravery of Ali, the shaja'a of Ali ibn Abi Talib, the sakhab of Ali ibn Abi Talib, the hayb of Ali ibn Abi Talib. At the end of the day, you are like your leaders. Those whose leaders are like the likes of Ali and Hassan and Hussein and Muhammad al-Baqir and Ja'far and al-Sadiq. Today you find them in the front lines. And those whose leaders are those who used to run away from the battles of Uhud and Hunayn and Khaybar. What do you expect from them? Nothing. You are influenced by your leaders. You take the characteristics of your leaders to some degree. Of course, you can never be Ali ibn Abi Talib. We can never be Hassan and Hussein. كونوا للظالم خصما وللمظلوم عونا. Be an enemy of the oppressor, and be a friend of the oppressed. Allah Allah fil Quran, Allah Allah fil Salah, Allah Allah fil Aitam. Wasiya Amirul Mu'mineen. It says, by God, do not neglect the Quran. Nobody should pass. Nobody should pass you. Nobody should be in front of you when it comes to Quran and acting upon it. Allah Allah fi salah. Do not neglect prayer. You know Ali ibn Abi Talib on a night like this, when he entered the masjid of Kufa, Abdurrahman ibn Muljim la'natullahi alayhi was sleeping. Ali woke him up. He says, get up, time for salah. Ali did not even want Ali ibn Abi Talib knew what he's there to do. He has ilmul ghaib. He has knowledge of the unseen. He knows. But he still gets him up. He says, get up. It's time for salah. Amirul Mu'mineen does not even like his qatil, his killer, to be somebody who doesn't pray. Imagine his muhib, his Shia. What expectations Imam Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam has from his Shia. Do not neglect the Quran. Do not neglect the salah. The hadith says that when Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam was dying, he was leaving this dunya, he had been poisoned. At one point his eyes are closed, he opens his eyes just before he dies. And he says, gather everyone, bring everyone. All of my family members, they bring everyone. And then he says, my last message, my wasiyah before I go is what? He says, remember, our shafa'ah will not reach those who take prayer lightly. Not the ones that don't pray. The ones that don't pray, they're doomed. The Imam Salamullah alayhi says, those who take prayer lightly, those who don't think much of prayer, we'll get it done, we'll do it later. We'll do qadha. I'll make it up. I'll pray when I get old. Imam Salamullah alayhi says, our shafa', what is, inshallah, in the coming nights we'll speak about shafa'ah. Our shafa', our intercession will not, in other words, we will not help those on the day of judgment who took prayer lightly. Allah Allah fil aitam. And then Imam Amirul Mu'mineen says, I'm going, but look after the orphans. Subhanallah. Ali, one of the names of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib is what? Abul Aitam. The father of the orphans. Subhanallah. You know, they say as long as Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib was alive, the orphans did not feel that they didn't have a father because Ali was there. The orphans did not feel left out because every night Amirul Mu'mineen would walk the streets of Kufa and he would find, where are the orphans? He would find the orphans. He would sit with them, he would feed them. He would go into the homes of the orphans. He would bring them food. One of the narrations says that there was a family. The father had died fighting alongside Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib in one of the battles. The mother had become a widow. She had young children. And one day she said that it's because of Ali ibn Abi Talib that my husband is dead. And news reached Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. She doesn't know him. He comes to the house, he brings food, he brings some bread, he brings some meat, he brings some oil. He prepares the food. He plays with the children because they're yatim. It's mustahab to play with children that are yatim, to put a hand on their head, to hug them, to embrace them, to make them smile. And then she says, she doesn't realize Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. She thinks that every day somebody comes to help, somebody's coming. It's a good man. And she says to him, my husband was killed because of Ali. Ali took him to war and he died. One day, one of her neighbors sees that Ali ibn Abi Talib came to the house and left. She said to her, "What is the Khalifa doing in your house?" He says, "Khalifa." She says, "Really?" She says, "Yes. That's Ali ibn Abi Talib." She says, "By God, I had no idea." She runs to him and she begins to apologize. She says, "Ya Ali, forgive me. I had no idea it's you." Amir al-Mu'minin Salamullah says, "No, forgive me. It is because of me that many of the Muslims, unfortunately, Ali ibn Abi Talib was dragged into wars. He didn't want to fight. In Siffin, he says to Muawiyah, "Why do the Muslims have to die? Why don't me and you fight? One on one. You take a sword, I take a sword." Muawiyah says, "No." He wasn't man enough to fight Ali ibn Abi Talib. But Amir al-Mu'mineen had special love in his heart for the orphans, for the aitam. For any yatim that Ali ibn Abi Talib would see, Amir al-Mu'mineen would stop. And he would say, "Allah, Allah fil aitam." O people, do not neglect the orphans after me. And then Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam, towards the end of his wasiyah, when he makes this wasiyah to his sons, to his family members, and to everyone to whom the wasiyah of Ali ibn Abi Talib reaches until today, this wasiyah is for us. It contains pearls of wisdom, jewels that have been uttered from the holy tongue of Imam Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salatu wasalam. By God, when Ali ibn Abi Talib was killed in Kufa, the orphans came crying. He said, "Today we have felt what it feels like to be a yatim." Imam Salamullah alayhi says, look, in wasiyah, it's not just about mal. When you write a will, it's not just that if I have mal or a house, or then I write the wasiyah. No. You can write a wasiyah in aqaid. And then the Prophet ﷺ says, going back to wasiyah, when you make a wasiyah, do not neglect anyone. Some people do a wasiyah, but they do it unjustly. They have an issue with a family member or somebody, they would neglect them. They would take him out. We won't put so and so in the wasiyah. We'll give the mal to somebody else. Even that is a dhulm. Al-Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salatu wasalam says that if you make a wasiyah, try to include those people in your family members upon which you don't have to make a wasiyah for. Even include them. Give them something to remember you by. And make dua for you. They recite Fatiha for you. You give them something to remember you by. Even them. Then Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen says, be careful about the neighbors. Rasulullah used to, then Imam Ali alayhi salam says, be careful about the neighbors, because Rasulullah used to tell us about caring for the neighbors so much that we would think that he would include the neighbors in the inheritance in wasiyah. Be careful of the rights of the neighbors. One cannot be a mu'min but the neighbor is upset with me. The signs of the mu'min is that the neighbor is happy. Even if the neighbor is a kafir. Still, try to maintain friendly ties. Imam Salamullah alayhi says, care for the Quran, care for the Salah, care for the orphans, care for your neighbors. Salamullah alayhi. And then he says, look, if I die, now look at the justice of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. He says, if I die, you hit him, he hit me once, you hit him once. That's it. Not more than that. One strike for one strike. And after he dies, do not mutilate his body. Because I heard Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam say that do not mutilate or dismember the body even of a wild dog or a beast. One strike for one strike. And then he says, amend your ties with your family members. For I've heard Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam say that amending the ties between family members are better than mustahab salah and sawm. Better than mustahab salah and sawm is amending ties with family members. Now is the best time. Layal al-Qadr, Laylatul Qadr, to amend ties. I haven't spoken to a family member for a long time, let me give them a call. Try to make up with those with whom we have had issue in the past. This is better than amal tonight. Much better than amal tonight is to reignite that flame of brotherhood between family members, especially blood relatives, mother, father, brother, sister, cousins, uncles and aunts who we haven't spoken with a long time. Amend those ties. And the wasiyah of Ali ibn Abi Talib. You see, everything we have is because of the love of Amir al-Mu'mineen. The love of Ali ibn Abi Talib and the teachings of Ali ibn Abi Talib. By God, we would not understand the Quran today as it is had it not been for Nahjul Balagha. Nahjul Balagha in a way is the tafsir of Quran. The words of Ali, the rawayat, the narrations explain the Quran. That's why some of the ulama have written tafsir of the Holy Quran, which are known as tafsir al-Rawai. Where the tafsir of the Quran is according to rawayat. This hadith is from Jabir ibn Abdullah. Jabir says, one day I entered upon Rasulullah. Rasulullah was sitting, I was sitting on his right, Ali ibn Abi Talib was on his left. That somebody entered. And he says, Ya Rasulullah, I have a question. He says, what is your question? He says, Ya Rasulullah, you have said, قولوا لا إله إلا الله تفلحوا. Is this true? Anyone who says La ilaha illallah, he is saved from the fire of hell. Yes or no? The Prophet says, yes, I said that. And then he says, but will that not make the people lazy? Is that it? We say La ilaha illallah and that's it. The Prophet says, no. La ilaha illallah is just the beginning. He says, what comes after that? Amir al-Mu'mineen is sitting next to him. He points towards him and he says, إِذَا تَمَسَّكَ بِمُحَبَّةِ هَذَا وَوِلَايَتِهِ. He says, La ilaha illallah with the muhabbat of Ali ibn Abi Talib and the wilaya of Ali ibn Abi Talib is what will make you successful on the day of Qiyamah. Remember the hadith of Imam Rida alayhi salam when he passes through Nishapur? Hadith, when they said to him, Imam Ali ibn Musa, Ya ibn Rasulullah, you leave Nishapur, give us a hadith. He says, he gives the whole silsila of the sanad al-hadith. He says, I heard from my father, Ma Musa ibn Ja'far, يقول, سمعت أبي جعفر ibn Muhammad يقول. He says, I heard from my father, who heard from his father, who heard from Imam Muhammad al-Baqir, who heard from Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, who heard from Imam al-Hussein, from Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, from Rasulullah, from Jibreel to Allah. In other words, the word of the Ma'soom is the word of Allah. Qawl al-Ma'soom, Qawl Allah. What does Allah say? La ilaha illallah hisni, faman dakhila hisni amina min azabi. He says, the one who says La ilaha illallah has entered my fort, has entered my house, has entered my safety, has entered a place of safety. Amina min azabi, and he is safe from my azab. He doesn't have any azab on him. He doesn't have any punishment on him. But then Imam Rida alayhi salam says, بِشَرْطِهَا وَشُرُوطِهَا وَأَنَا مِن شُرُوطِهَا. La ilaha illallah alone is not enough. It has terms and conditions. What are the terms and conditions of La ilaha illallah? Muhabbah, wilaya of Ahlul Bayt, of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt. Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida alayhi salam said, La ilaha illallah through me. In fact, the hadith says all of your ibadat and even a'mal tonight, ibadat, Salat is accepted through Ali ibn Abi Talib. Sawm is accepted through Ali ibn Abi Talib. Hajj through Ali. Zakat through Ali. Khumus through Ali. Amal through Ali ibn Abi Talib. Everything. We have ahadith, so many ahadith that has reached the level of mutawatir, that no amal, no deed is accepted except min babil wilayah. Except that it comes through the bab, the door of the wilayah of Ahlul Bayt. Only when we have the love of Ali ibn Abi Talib and the wilayah of Ali ibn Abi Talib in our hearts, Allah accepts your salah, Allah accepts your sawm. Allah is not accepting the salah and sawm of those who don't have wilayah of Ahlul Bayt. The wilayah of Ahlul Bayt is the shart of ibadah. The shart of sawm, of fasting. Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam. The shart of Quran is al-Quran al-Natiq. Amirul Mu'mineen. And today, in our time now, Al-Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam. Tonight being the night, one of the possible night of Qadr. Remember, it's a night to connect. My final point, and then Masai. Tonight, when you make dua, you're going to ask for your hajat. Remember, let your first dua and your main dua be dua al-faraj of Imam Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman. Let that be your first dua. Then you make dua for the mareez, for the shuhada, for the marhumeen, for others, for yourself, for your parents, for your grandparents. The first dua. You know what the ulama say? When you go for ziyarah, when you go to Karbala, you go to Najaf, Mashhad, Qum, Samarraka, the main, you stand in front of the zari of the imam. What is the first dua you should make? The first dua in the zari is dua al-faraj. Tonight, تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل أمر. Tonight, all of malaika come down with kulli amr. This amr has what is amr? Amrullah. It has rizq, it has hayat, it has maut, it has sihha, sihhatul jism, sihhatul iman. It has everything. Everything is rizq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It has wealth, health, ma'rifah of the deen, ma'rifah of Quran, ma'rifah of Ahl Bayt. Everything comes down where? It comes down upon Imam al-Zaman. Tonight, as you make dua, as we remember sad night of the striking of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Shabi Zarbati Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Laylatul Jurh, the night in which Ali ibn Abi Talib, his beard is drenched in his blood. Ajrukum ala Allah. Let us go towards the city of Kufa. Ya Shi'ata Amir al-Mu'mineen. You know, when it comes to the musibah of Ali ibn Abi Talib, when it comes to the masa'ib of Ali ibn Abi Talib, know that in just 2 nights, his children Zainab and Kulthum and Hassan and Hussein will become orphans. They will not have a father. They've already lost their mother Fatima. They will not have a father. Ali truly is mazloom. Ali truly is alone. You know, after Rasulullah, Amirul Mu'mineen was very lonely. And then it was only a few days that his wife Fatima left him. Then Ali ibn Abi Talib became even more lonely. Ali would wait patiently for this night that is upon us tonight. He would wait patiently for this night. The month of Ramadan began. Ali would make iftar one by one in the house of his children. One night he would make iftar at the house of Hassan. The other night he would make iftar at the house of Hussein. The other night he would make iftar at the house of Zainab. Tonight he made iftar at the house of Kulthum al-Zainab al-Sughra, salamullahi alayha. He sits on the sufra. She brings him bread and milk. Amir al-Mu'mineen says to her, "Oh my daughter, take the milk. I will make iftar with salt and a bit of bread." Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ya Abada, you're my father, you're my guest. Today I want to give you iftar. He says, "No, Kulthum, give the milk to the orphans of Kufa. There are many yatim in the city of Kufa. Give them from this." Ya Shi'ata Amir al-Mu'mineen. Now imagine, he makes iftar and he retreats to his room for ibadah and dua. And every now and then he would come out and he would look at the night. And then he would go back in and then he would say to his son, "Imam Hassan, ya bunayya, kam mada min shahrina hadha." "Oh Hassan, how many days have passed of this month?" Ali was waiting for something. "How many days of Ramadan have passed?" He says, "Father, it is the 19th night of Ramadan. We have 10 days left, 11 days left. How many? What is the night? 19th. And then he would come out and then he would look outside at the night and he would say, "Wallahi hadhihi al-layla." By God, this is that night. Kulthum says, "What night? What is happening tonight, Father?" He says, "Tonight is the night my Habibi Rasulullah had promised me, Ya Ali. That night is close. What will happen? Your beard will be drenched in your blood. Somebody will strike your head and your beard will be drenched in your blood. Ajrukum ala Allah ya Shia." Now imagine what is going through Kulthum. This is a daughter. May no daughter see this a night like tonight. Daughters have love for their fathers. Daughters have a special connection with their fathers. What happens now? He goes back to pray and then he sleeps for a little while. He says, "Ya Kulthum, wake me up before Salat al-Fajr. I will wake up and I will pray the Salat al-Layl." He sleeps and then he wakes up. What does he say? When he wakes up in the middle of the night without Kulthum waking him, he wakes up and he says, "Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un, la quwwata illa billah." He says, "This is a night, this is a strange night." What does that mean? He says, "By God, this is the night that I was promised." How was I promised that night? He says, "This is the night." And he puts on the abba and then he wants to come out. He wants to go to the masjid. Kulthum comes to her father. She says, "Oh father, must you go tonight? Why can you not stay? Can somebody else not lead the prayer?" And he says, "My child, no, I must go towards the masjid and mihrab of Kufa. The mihrab waits for me." What does he do? You know what he does? He puts on the abba, he puts on the ammama on his head. Ali is going to the masjid. What happens when he comes out towards, there are some birds in the house of Kulthum. They surround Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen as if they do not want Ali ibn Abi Talib to go to the masjid. And then when he goes, he comes to the masjid. Ajrakum ala Allah. That point is close. What point? That is that point which is no smaller than Qiyamah. What happens? He comes to the masjid. He stands for the nafilah of the Salah of Fajr, nafilatul Fajr. He begins with the Salat, he does the Qiyam, he does the Ruku. When he goes into Sajda, Abdurrahman ibn Muljim al-Mal'oon is there. He waits for Ali to go into Sajda. As Ali goes into Sajda and he raises his head, this Abdurrahman takes a dagger. The head of Ali is coming up and the dagger of Abdurrahman comes down on the head of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ali falls to the ground. He goes back into sajda. He says, "Bismillah wa billah wa ala millati Rasulillah." فزت ورب الكعبة. Ali ibn Abi Talib at that moment, even in a time like this, he says, by God, Ali ibn Abi Talib has succeeded. Everybody gathers, news reaches Hassan and Hussein. Jibreel comes, and the nida of Jibreel is heard. تهدمت والله أركان الهدى قتل ابن عم المصطفى. They say that the pillar of faith has been destroyed. Ali has been killed. أجركم على الله. Imagine Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein salamullahi alayhi. Imagine what is going through them. Imagine Abu al-Fadl Abbas, Bibi Zainab and Bibi Kulthum are in their homes. They do not know what is happening. Imam Hassan takes Ali ibn Abi Talib into his lap. But he says, oh Hassan, lead the salah first. Finish the salah. Imam Hassan finishes the salah. Ali recites the salah sitting. And after reciting the salah, Ali falls to the ground. Imam al-Mujtaba salamullahi alayhi, he takes Ali ibn Abi Talib into his lap. He takes Ali in his lap. What does a son do? He begins to cry. Imam Hassan's tears fall from his eyes onto the face of Ali. He opens his eyes and he says, oh Hassan, do not cry, have sabr, my son. But then when Imam al-Hussein cries, when Hassan cries, he says, oh Hassan, have patience, for you are a masmoom, they will poison you. But then when Imam al-Hussein cries, you know what he says? He says, oh Hussein, la yawm ka yawmika ya Aba Abdullah. Oh Hussein, there is no day like yours. They take him. Do you know what they do? They carry Ali ibn Abi Talib back to the house. But before he comes to the door, he says, let me stand. They say, why Ali will carry you? He says, no, because Zainab and Kulthum, my daughters, they saw me walk to the masjid. If they see me come back like this, a daughter, her heart will break. How will Zainab look at me in this state? But I say, oh Ali, you could not bear Zainab look at you in this state. But I say, how did Zainab see shimmer on the chest of Aba Abdullah? How did Zainab see what she saw on the day of Ashura? What she see? She saw shimmer with a dagger on the chest of Abi Abdullah. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون.
Stop? Oh, okay. Look, this is start, yeah. Stream.
जमने हैदर को मारा रोज़ादारों क़यामत के दिन है इब्ने मुल्जम ने हैदर को मारा रोज़ादारों क़यामत के दिन है इब्ने मुल्जम ने हैदर को मारा रोज़ादारों क़यामत के दिन है इब्ने मुल्जम ने हैदर को मारा रोज़ादारों क़यामत के दिन है इब्ने माशाल्लाह सब पढ़ो भाई हैदर को मारा रोज़ादारों क़यामत के दिन है इब्ने मुलजम ने हैदर को मारा, रोज़ादारों क़यामत के दिन हैं, हमसे बिछड़ा है मौला हमारा, रोज़ादारों क़यामत के दिन हैं, इब्ने मुलजम ने हैदर को मारा, रोज़ादारों क़यामत के दिन हैं, इब्ने मुलजम ने हैदर को मारा।
माशाल्लाह जवाब भाई
हमसे बिछड़ा है मौला हमारा, रोज़ादारों क़यामत के दिन हैं, इब्ने मुलजम ने हैदर को मारा, रोज़ादारों क़यामत के दिन हैं, इब्ने मुलजम।
माशाल्लाह जवाब भाई
हक बेवारसी है सरों पर, काले परचम लगे हैं घरों पर, हक बेवारसी है सरों पर, काले परचम लगे हैं घरों पर, हमसे बिछड़ा है मौला हमारा, हमसे बिछड़ा है मौला हमारा, रोज़ादारों क़यामत के दिन हैं, इब्ने मुलजम ने हैदर को मारा, रोज़ादारों क़यामत।
माशाल्लाह जवाब भाई
मुलजम ने हैदर को मारा, शब ये 19वीं कैसी आई, घूमे डूबा मोहम्मद का भाई, शब ये 19वीं कैसी आई, घूमे डूबा मोहम्मद का भाई, रो रहा है सहर का सितारा, रो रहा है सहर का सितारा, रोज़ादारों क़यामत के दिन हैं, इब्ने मुलजम ने हैदर को मारा, रोज़ादारों क़यामत के दिन हैं, इब्ने मुलजम ने हैदर।
माशाल्लाह जवाब दिया कि हैदर को मारा,
इब्ने मुलजम सितम कैसा ढाया, कब्र में सैयदा को रुलाया, इब्ने मुलजम सितम कैसा ढाया, कब्र में सैयदा को रुलाया, कैसे बच्चों का होगा गुजारा, कैसे बच्चों का होगा गुजारा, रोज़ादारों क़यामत के दिन हैं, इब्ने मुलजम ने हैदर को मारा,
जवाब भाई
रोज़ादारों क़यामत के दिन हैं,
इब्ने मुलजम ने एक सर पे लिख
तेग सर पे अली के लगी है, आज शम्म इमामत बुझी है, तेग सर पे अली के लगी है, आज शम्म इमामत बुझी है, दिल यतीम का है पारा पारा, दिल यतीम का है पारा पारा, रोज़ादारों क़यामत के दिन हैं, इब्ने मुलजम ने हैदर को मारा, रोज़ादारों क़यामत के दिन हैं, इब्ने मुलजम ने हैदर को मारा। माँ के मरने का गम कम नहीं था, एक कोहे अलम और टूटा। माँ के मरने का गम कम नहीं था, एक कोहे अलम और टूटा। सोग में गर है ज़ारा का सारा, सोग में गर है ज़ारा का सारा। रोज़ादारों कयामत के दिन है, इब्ने मुलजम ने क़द्र को मारा। रोज़ादारों कयामत के दिन है, इब्ने मुलजम।
मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु